Hi guys, it's Adriana with Jack's Mom in Austin, and I'm here with Courtney from Courtney Harris Coaching. And we're here to talk to you guys today about just transitioning back to school with your teens and tweens and a little bit about self-care. I'm going to go ahead and let Courtney take over and introduce herself and tell you what she does.
Awesome. Thanks, Adriana. So I'm Courtney, and I work with families with parents and with their teens and tweens to help them build strong communication and excellent connection. I know that during the teen years, oftentimes, our teens are pushing back and they're really working to develop themselves as an individual, to find their voice and to figure out what their role is in the world. And so they're kind of in this experimentation phase, and that can be hard for us as adults. So I create the support for parents as well as their teenagers for bridging those gaps and finding ways to make sure that everyone feels like their needs are being met.
Awesome. I think that's so important. I do definitely remember being kind of crazy as a teen. I'm sure most of us remember our teen years, and we might remember them differently, but I think that having this resource is so important. So thank you for having that, for supporting that. So we did ask a few of you if you had any questions to send them our way, and Courtney would try her best to answer them. We got 3 different questions, and they're all pertaining about obviously having a teenage child and a transition either with school or just with life in general. So she's going to go ahead and answer them, and we have 2 13-year-olds and I think an 18-year-old that we're talking about, but I'll let her answer those. So the first question, I'll go ahead and let you. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and ask it, or actually you go ahead? Go ahead.
Okay, so the first question was about stealing. This was a 13-year-old that the mom reported has been taking things from her and from the household, things like asking for $10 but then taking $20. So kind of pushing some limits with that, and then other items around the house kind of disappearing, then being found in the 13-year-old's possession. And so I wanted to, first of all, say to that parent that I'm sorry that you are feeling a sense of stress, because I think what I heard you say is that you're worried about your child doing this to other people, or maybe going out in the world and doing it, not just in the household. And so, I feel for you. And what I would say next is that I would be interested in helping your young person tap into what they feel in their body and what they feel in their mind as they make an impulsive behavior to steal or to take something that isn't theirs. And I would just start with open-ended questions. I'm a big proponent. I talk a lot about asking our children open-ended questions because they actually give them the opportunity to have agency and step into they get to find the answer.
Exactly. I totally agree with that.
So some of those open-ended questions I might start with asking is, when you decide to take the extra $10, what are you hearing in your mind? And of course, you don't have to use exactly the wording that I'm using. Use something that makes sense to you, that you would feel comfortable saying, but kind of getting them to listen to themselves and figure out what it is that they're hearing. And then likewise, asking something like, what do you feel in your heart when you take something that isn't yours? Or even when the item or the missing thing has been discovered, asking, how does it feel knowing that you took the money that wasn't yours? And not judging or coaching or even necessarily saying that it's wrong, but starting out just with letting the child explore that for themselves.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great option there to do that. Definitely. With your kiddos, when they are doing something, I think for us, and I know Jack is only 3, but I was telling Courtney, it's totally whoever decided to call 3-year-olds teenagers, it's so head on. That is just totally right, and it's totally accurate, but definitely giving them the open-ended question, even as with a 3-year-old, it's really good to do. Particularly when they're asking you the same question over and over and over again and it gets really annoying, you should definitely return with, what do you think that does? It works so well because they get stumped. And it's also really cute sometimes hearing what they have to say in return. But I totally agree with you. I think that's really, because asking how they feel, how they're feeling, definitely I feel gets them in touch with, okay, maybe helps them ask themselves, why am I doing this? What am I getting from this?
Right.
So,
because I'm guessing that this behavior could be, it's just impulsive right now. Perhaps it's just something that's a pattern that the child is kind of programmed to, and there might not be, they might not actually know what's causing or what happens first before they actually do the taking or the stealing. And then I guess the last thing I would add to that is also, as the parent, share how you feel when it happens. So this is another thing I talk a lot about, but if we as the adults and supporters, as the parents, can voice how we feel when we're going through something that's challenging, if we say, wow, that really surprised me when I looked in my wallet and I was missing $10, and I felt hurt that you took $10 that weren't yours, and just saying that and letting it be. So again, not necessarily scolding or trying to lay it on really hard, but to just say like, hey, this is my reality. This is how I felt. And so when we put voice to our feelings and share that, then we are also modeling for our child,
I agree, yes,
how to find their voice.
Totally great. I do love that you promote that, because I think, we see our parents as these strong, beings that maybe don't have emotions, because that's kind of how we were raised. And it's really good that our kids can see that, you can be sad, you can be mad, you can be frustrated, because that's the only way that's giving them tools to cope, helping them. So I totally agree. That was awesome. Those of you watching, I know we have a pretty little group right now, a pretty large little group right now watching. If you have any questions that you'd like to add or any comments, please feel free to do so. And as for the questions, we'll answer them as soon as we're done with this. Courtney will answer them. But yeah, we'll try our best to get those answered for you guys. And if you need to leave us in a little bit and you are interested in watching the rest, we will be posting, or I'll be posting this in a blog post, and also you'll be able to watch it on Facebook throughout the day. So you guys will be set. Yeah, and you can leave your questions and I'll answer them. You can come back and listen later if you have to skip out early. So I guess we'll go on to our next question. Yes. So the next question was about also a 13-year-old, right? A 13-year-old that has been presenting quite a bit of negativity, just feeling down about school, just a general sense of negativity and downness. And so, of course, the parent is worried and wondering what's the next step and how do I help my daughter that is feeling down in the dumps about everything right now. Not feeling very excitable, I think is what it sounded like. Yeah. So the first thing that I would say to that is that, okay, so again, in sharing about our process as the parents and the supporters, I think it's important to talk about how we do have good days and we have bad days. In fact, I'll share something. My mom used to always tell me, we don't know what a good day is until we have a bad day. And it's not to say that having a bad day for 2 months in a row is okay. That's not right. We all deserve to have happiness and joy. And if we are in a place of feeling really down, not able to feel our joy, we do need help and we do need support. But if we can continue to normalize the fact that we are going to have challenges and struggles and normalize asking for help, I think that's a really great place to start. Yeah. And so one practice that I share with families is that you can talk about like, hey, how's your day on a scale of 1 to 10 today? And let the child just kind of have this boundary almost of like, okay, somewhere between 1 and 10, where is it? And any answer is a good answer. And then maybe continuing to elaborate on that. Okay, well, why did it feel like a 6 today? What happened that made it feel like a 6? And again, it's like giving your child the space to say whatever it is. And I do also like to recommend that when our child comes home and maybe says something like, I really just had a bad day, nothing's going my way, and maybe they unload all these kind of like just down comments. It's really nice sometimes to meet them just with an acceptance and say, oh, I hear you. Yeah. And literally maybe that's it at first, right? Then you might see if they say some more. And we might ask some more probing questions, but if we are going immediately to the sense of, if we're going immediately to giving advice, they might push back, right? Yeah. It's like they don't always want the problem to be fixed. They just want to be heard for whatever the feeling is that they have right now. So I'm sure the parent that asked this has
has worked hard to be a compassionate listener. And at this point, you're probably just really concerned about your child's well-being. So I give you these suggestions to try. And if you have tried these, I do think that seeking out a counselor or seeking out a coach that can help your child to explore themselves, explore what does bring them joy, explore what it is that's bringing them challenge, and also continue to explore like how to actually put names to those feelings, because I am curious about if this 13-year-old is even able to kind of name what they're going through.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
that's a heavy one too. I feel like when you don't, you want to help your child, and how much can you help, and without being overbearing, without being like, just talk to me. So I think that's a big one for parents, that you just want to help, but sometimes you just need to be that listening ear and let them vent.
Right.
So yeah,
I think it's hard. We do our best, and we want to fix it for them, because that's our role as a parent, is to be supportive. But the being supportive doesn't always have to be an immediate piece of advice. So I guess just to kind of recap that, there can be ways that each day you talk about how the day went. Or another way is like, what was a rose from your day and a thorn from your day, something beautiful and something maybe kind of painful. And just giving these kind of daily systems for checking in. And then again, the listening to how your child feels and working to not give advice, and just saying, I hear you, or my heart is with you. And again, whatever phrasing works for you. I would say something like, my heart is with you, but that might be cheesy for someone else.
No, and I totally see what you're saying. Yeah, like we incorporate something similar with Jack, where we literally say back whatever, if it was horrible, just kind of say that, I see that your day was really rough today. And just, acknowledging that was a rough day, and repeating, whatever. Like it was hard, or whatever. I'm sure that'll change when he's older, but for right now, that works for us.
It's a strategy for sure. Yeah. Yes. And I guess another thing I would add to this one, this really goes into the kind of back to school piece as well, but I do hear, in my history of being a teacher for 10 years, I've worked with so many students that feel a general sense of anxiety with the workload at school, the crowded hallways, the just not feeling understood sometimes by teachers or peers. And so the sense of anxiety can become overwhelming, and they may be in a depressed or down place. And so I also like to have conversations with teenagers about, who are your supports? Like, who is the teacher that you could go to their room and have lunch? Who is the friend that you will look for and commit to having lunch with? Or creating, sort of letting them name what their different supports are for finding the little bits of safety and the little bits of joy in their day. And I think that's, a great conversation to have with our teens and tweens as well.
Yeah, kind of a little reminder. Before we go to the next question, I'm actually going to ask Emily's question, because I think it goes with this, kind of. So Emily, who I spoke to before, who's awesome, by the way, she asked, I would love to hear some advice about helping teens or tweens deal with social pressure, especially from social media. Yes, very good question. That one's a doozy, I feel. I'm interested to know what you're going to say about that.
It's a big one. So first of all, I do talk with a lot of teenagers about their general behaviors with their devices. They have them on them all the time. They're next to their beds. They're in their pockets. It's like, it truly becomes an addiction for a lot of our young people. And for us, grown people have the same problem. But so first, I like to talk about a healthy relationship to the device, and that can help to create that first layer of a boundary or a barrier, and helping them become aware of the ways that they might just tend towards always going to the device, or always seeing how many likes they got, or posting a quick blurb about their emotions on any of their social media platforms. So if we can first start with the healthy routines and have hours of the day that we are not on our devices, and hours of the day that we might be on our devices, I think that's a great foundational place to start. And I know most parents that I talk to work on this, and it's challenging. It's challenging to continue to have our kids uphold those boundaries. But I think it's important that the child can help name them. Yeah. So even asking the child, so when do you think it's a good time to not be on the phone? When are some times when it doesn't help you to be on your phone? Yeah. And letting them name them, because again, if it comes from us,
Yeah,
the kid's like,
it
no,
does,
no.
Exactly, yeah. And that starts early, let me tell you.
Starts early, yes.
That's so early.
So that's the first boundary. And then the other thing I like to talk about is, again, it's emotions. I think I come back to emotions a lot about what feels good to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a post of you and your friends at a birthday party having a great time, does that feel good to you? Does it feel good to you to honor your friends and put a picture up that shows your joy? Likewise, if you post something unkind about someone, how does that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
And so really getting our young people to be in touch with the emotional implications or not even the emotional implications, but just like the actual effect that it has on them emotionally to be putting things out in the universe. And so really I connect a lot of the behavior to emotion so that they can begin to monitor their own actions out in the social media world.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's a good one. I don't even know what to expect here in like 10 years, but
what is even going to be happening? It's either going to be like exploded and gone.
I know. Or we're going to be really immersed in social media. It's going to be nuts. We'll see what happens. But thank you, Emily, for asking that question. That's a really good question, and it's definitely a heavy one. So, and I guess we'll go on to our next question.
Sure.
Which is a doozy too. It's pretty big.
Yeah. So the third question was a parent that has a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. The 18-year-old is at college now, and the 18-year-old seems to have pretty much had a smooth track into college, from what I understood.
Yeah.
And the 16-year-old is a bit more of the possibly like, I don't know, the parent didn't say risk-taking, but what was it? Maybe a bit more all over the place, maybe as a little less organized.
Yeah, maybe more outgoing too, because they said they were in a bunch of activities. So maybe they're outgoing. And
yes. Okay. So I think the question was about how to support the 16-year-old in getting where they need to be by the time they're going away to college, like the older child. And the first thing I wanted to say to the parent is, first of all, I invite you to give yourself credit. Give yourself credit for what you have done with both your 16-year-old and your 18-year-old. And of course, parents have concerns as their child goes away. Like, did I do enough? Do they know what they're doing? Are they going to survive?
Yeah.
And you might be getting the text messages of like, just complete struggle, right? Like, I had a rough day. I don't understand how to take notes in my classes. Everything moves too fast. Why are there 300 people in my class? I can't learn in that environment. Just all kinds of concerns, right, that our young people are having as they go away to college. So the parent is receiving this and maybe feeling really hard on themselves. So first, I just invite you to give yourself credit and to know that this is a huge learning stretch. And so if you're feeling that stretch, it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, let's think back to when we went to college and or any time that we've had a big transition. It doesn't have to be college. It can be a move, a new job. Those are all big growing pains. So like, just acknowledge that's normal. You're in you're in the normal place.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure about if maybe if there was a desire for the 16-year-old to be co-creating a bit more and taking different or enhanced responsibilities in the household. So I think a good place to start with that, again, I'm just going to go back to the open-ended questions, is asking things like, what do you think you need to do in order to be ready for the week? Let them name, okay, what do I have to do to feel like, okay, it's Sunday night. How do I get prepared for this week? Maybe it's like including them in a family scheduling process. So do you have a family schedule, and do they need to be the one that says like, okay, I have band practice this day, I have a big test this day, and really co-creating that together so that the weight is not on the parent, it's shared. The other thing I was thinking in this situation is, I guess it's even with the 18-year-old asking similar questions. If the 18-year-old is coming back and asking questions, then that makes the parent feel like, okay, maybe they're not prepared. Asking them those same questions, like, how will you prepare for that test on Thursday? Yeah. What skills do you think you need to learn in order to be living independently? And then I think another question I meant to mention earlier too that follows up with the open-ended questions is saying, do you want some advice? So actually asking the young person, do you want some advice? And then that's the time that the parent can step in and give the advice with with a child being in more of an open place.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because you're right. They're not going to, if they don't want to listen, they're not going to listen. They're going to hear what they want to hear.
Yes.
So, I mean, I've done that, I still do that. So
yes. I mean, we do it to our friends, our loved ones all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's coming from our heart.
Mm-hmm. But
if they're not open. Yeah.
Totally agree. If anyone has any other questions, I actually had one. I was talking to a friend, or she was actually a mentor of mine for a while for creative writing, and she has a daughter. And we were talking about everything that's kind of been going on lately, a lot of tragedy, and a lot of really heavy stuff, and how to approach that with the younger teens. I guess because she's a tween, she's 12, and I know that they see it on social media, or they'll probably hear their friends talk about it. What's a great way, or not a great way, what's just a way to kind of broach that subject and maybe be like, do you understand what's going on? Instead of them not coming to you and talking to you about it and maybe finding it from friends or finding resources elsewhere. I feel like that's a really big worry for me in the future, for Jack. Like, how will I make sure that he at least has a more legitimate source for what's going on?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And I think you're even talking about, like, how do you have the relationship with your child that is about the family, but it's also about the world, right? Like, as people that care about our bigger communities, we care about our Austin community, our United States community, our global community. So I think that's a big, important question. And one thing I like to talk with parents about is doing the exploration together. So if it's looking up news sources together and talking about it, reading different headlines, seeing what it's like, who is being captured by those headlines, and talking about, like, who do you think this news is for? Who do you think is being affected by this news? Reading articles together, and again, going into that place of emotions, asking our young people how it makes them feel, what they think people can do to help. And of course, like, sharing your process on that as well. So these are my biggest strategies, really, is the open-ended questions, and then the parent sharing their own process.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that we show our young people our human side too, and when we feel hurt about what's happening in our politics and in the world, that we actually put voice to that we express it, and that we can let our child step into that place as well. We give them the space, and if their opinion is different than ours, then sometimes that we also just have to accept that. That's valid, and we can continue to be in dialogue, and it might transform. But creating the intentional space for doing the research together and just being in dialogue is hugely important.
That is really good, because I know I can't imagine the parents right now that have a lot of this stuff going on and trying to work through that with your children. And especially for me, I think not being biased too, because of course you want your child to think the way you think, but you can't. I mean, they're their own person. So
yes. I do. I talk to parents a lot about sometimes letting our kids say no. We might invite them to do something and it feels really important to us, and their answer might be no. And sometimes we have to accept a no. We have to let them have that opportunity to say no. Of course, we can also invite them to give us a reason and to elaborate on why their answer is no. And so likewise, we do want to give our young people the opportunity to have a different opinion than ours. Because, we're raising another human being to be their own person.
I know. It's a tremendous, it's so much responsibility, but you're so right. You got to give them their room. And I mean, Jack is a champ at no right now. So I'm like, what's it going to be like when you're older?
Totally. Yes. And I guess that's, I come back to the word dialogue too, that to me, a conversation sounds like, okay, we had one conversation, but a dialogue is like, it's always going. It's always going. So like right now the answer is no, like, let's keep reading, let's keep talking, and maybe the answer changes.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. This was good stuff. Yeah. Let's see. We have a few people that have joined us. If you guys have any questions pertaining about your teens, tweens, please feel free to ask us. We still have some time. I think now we're going to go into just touching base with yourself and self-care, something I'm horrible at. I'm sure some of you know. I don't talk about it much, but because this was coming up, I've been talking about it more. But it's crazy how much I've realized I've let so much go pertaining to myself, because I have so much work. I have a 3-month-old, I have Jack, and I'm trying to keep up with everything. And it's literally trying to keep 10 plates up in the air, juggling, without having one of them fall. And it's just, it's intense. But I'm glad that having you come has made me realize, okay, I might need to take a step back, even if that does mean, letting some things go. Yeah. But you have some tips, I guess, for parents that are maybe in my position. And
yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting, the first time we were going to talk, you were sick and you were kind of like, maybe I'll try to make it. Yeah. And I was like, it's okay. I was bummed because I wanted to be here with you and finally get to be in person with you. But, that listening to ourselves and being able to let things go is really powerful. Yeah. Because when we can let some things go, then we can show up more fully for the rest.
It's so true. So. It would not have been a success. I talked about it a little bit, but it was crazy because it was literally probably 15 minutes before she was going to get here, and I just threw up. And I was like, this is fine. I'll be fine, And it's crazy what your brain thinks. Yeah. You're like, I could power through this.
Right.
And then 3 hours later, I'm just, dead to the world and thinking, how did I think that I could be fine through that?
Yes.
But it's nuts what your brain goes through, and then the immense guilt of like, oh, I'm letting all these people down. It's like, well, you're letting yourself down too, though, if you don't take care of that.
Yeah. If you don't rest now, you're going to feel bad for 3 days or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, that was good. Thank
I know.
you.
Isn't that ironic?
I know.
Yeah, so I guess one thing, so we already talked about the word no, but we'll use it in a different context here. But I think that oftentimes in our world, and this goes back to social media even, we see what other people are doing and it feels like, oh, should I be doing that? Should I be doing that? Yeah. And the word should, right? We just, I've had a therapist say, we just should all over ourselves. And it's like, good. We don't need to do that, right? There's no should. And the shoulding comes from that headspace of like, I think, you're telling yourself you should be doing something, but you maybe don't feel it in your body, or you maybe don't feel it in the rest of yourself. Like, I should commit to doing that PTA meeting. Well, do you really feel that in your heart? Or are you just saying it because, that's a thing that some parents are involved in, and you want to make sure you are as involved in your child's life? So it's really the trying to let go of the shoulds, give yourself permission to say no. And I don't know if you have to take a break from different social medias because that creates pressure. I invite you to do that. And feel free. I did see one of my friends. She's a yoga teacher and a friend of, she has a couple children, and she posted something at the end of last school year that was like, if you want me to bring something to a potluck, no. If you want me to sign up to host a meeting, no. If you want me to go to a birthday party, no. And it just like listed all these things that parents feel at any given moment.
Yeah.
And she was kind of putting it out there, and I saw so many moms comment below it like, thank you for giving me the opportunity to feel that. So again, this is just an opportunity, an invitation to saying no. Of course, there's always more that we could be doing. But again, that idea that the more that we are giving from a place of having energy, knowing that it feels right in our hearts, and that we truly do have the capacity and time, as I said, and energy to give, if we don't have that, we can let it go. We can let it go. And one thing, so I use a bullet journal. It's the style of journaling that I use. Helps me do my time management and prioritize my tasks. And one thing that I would say is in using this system, I every day pick like the one thing that I have to do. Sometimes it's the one or two. Like, what do I for sure have to do today? And then I'll look at the other things, and I really will mentally tell myself, it's okay if I don't get to these. And also in my bullet journal, what I do is I actually plan out. I'm going on a walk on this time. I'm going to yoga at this time. Now, I will be transparent and say I don't have my own children at home. So, of course, if your child gets sick or something happens, sometimes you have to let go of those other appointments you make with yourself for your child. But if you go through the steps of mentally preparing and committing in whatever your planning system is, whether it be a bullet journal, your Google Calendar, whatever, but taking that step to make a commitment, put some weight to it, to the self-care. So those are a couple of systems that I would recommend.
Then that's awesome. I'm like, I needed all those.
Yeah.
I will add to it, and I'm horrible at it, but I know how Courtney does say she does not have children. If we reverse that and I put myself in that, even I think just going and taking a bathroom break, I know that sounds ridiculous, but just having, tell your partner if he's home or she's home, hey, just watch them for 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I'm going to go step out, and I'm going to just having that little tiny bit of time is such a great way to reboot. And it sounds ridiculous because it's such a small amount of time, but when you're already done and you just need that minute, like it helps so much. Yeah. So if you can't commit to like anything else, or, your child does get sick, whatever happens, find that time, that 5 minutes. You can find that 5 minutes. Yes. It's going to make such a difference just having that 5 minutes. So,
it's true. There's a podcast called Parents Who, and the host had an episode that was like 5 minutes long, and it was basically a permission episode. And she was like, I literally last night was washing dishes and started crying, and she had to run upstairs to her closet and sit in the closet because that was the only quiet space she could find and cry for 5 minutes. And it's like, yes, use your 5 minutes, use whatever, it's okay if you have to take a break. And I think you're bringing up a great point is, especially with our teens and tweens, we can tell them, especially, our older children, that we can have more rational kind of critical thinking type conversations with. We can tell them, hey, I need a break. Yeah. I'll come back to this in 30 minutes. Or, hey, let's meet up in an hour and we can talk about the rest of this. But definitely take time, and don't be afraid to say that to your child. It's okay for you to be the one that steps away, and letting them know, hey, we'll talk in whatever X amount of time. But yeah, taking those breaks is super important.
Yeah. And if you do have littler ones, like you guys know, I have Galen, who's 3 months, and Jack, who's 3. It's also okay to put them down for a minute and step away. That's a big one for me. You'll hear that a lot from people who have had to deal with postpartum depression. It's the same thing. Just go ahead and make it young for the younger kiddos and shorten that time. But honestly, just put them down, step away, give yourself that breath, and then go back to it. And with the older ones like Jack, who's 3, I can actually tell him, I can't answer that right now, or I need a minute. Because I will get upset, and I know he knows me as well and knows that I probably need that minute, or else I'm not going to say something very nice. I'll be really impatient with him. Yeah. So I'm like, I need a minute. I can't answer that, or step away.
Well, and I love that you're doing that with Jack, because then he's learning that sometimes he's going to have to take a little time out for himself. Yeah. And I use the word time out, not in the
time out sense,
but
just
we all need
space.
A little time out. Actually, one of my friends calls it time in. Yes. Because you're time in with yourself. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's important that we're modeling that. Another thing, I do share a lot of kind of meditation and breathwork type practices. And one thing I would say in this situation for self-care is giving yourself whatever, committing to a certain time of day where it tends to be that you do have a few minutes to do some sort of practice, whether it be early in the morning or before bed or over lunch, and maybe do a practice of gratitude. So breathing in and thinking about what you're grateful for. Excuse me.
No, yeah, you're okay.
Whoops.
We both have allergies, and I totally forgot to tell you, but I've done this before having an asthma attack. So, and I totally didn't realize that was going on. So you're cool.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that happened.
It's okay. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's scary.
I powered through it.
So doing a gratitude practice, so breathing in and thinking about what you're grateful for, maybe breathing out peace. You might even put your hand on your heart and just take a few moments to say what you're grateful for. It might be your morning coffee. It might be the chocolate bar in your lunch. It might be something much bigger. It could just be the smile that you got from your young person earlier that day. Yeah. But a gratitude practice is a great way to to get some peace and take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. That's really good to remember. And I am always kind of following Courtney on Facebook and just seeing what she posts up for the day because it's so helpful. And it's weird because it'll be something so small that it's so easy to think of, but we don't. Just you asking a simple question, and I'm like, how come I didn't think of that? And it just really does improve the day that
well, yeah, and it comes from me being in the place too.
Yeah.
I need to stop and breathe now.
Right? I know, it's crazy. I know we still have a few people watching and following us. So if you guys have any questions, please ask us and we will answer them. But I think right now too, it's really important to think about self-care. And I'm seeing this definitely from the perspective of a new mom, new baby, or not new mom, but new baby. And it's so easy for us to forget about ourselves. And I think it's something that can continue on definitely with your older children where they're always first. And just taking those few steps back to remember yourself and check in with yourself and make sure you're okay. Because if you're not okay, ultimately the family's not going to be okay. So
it's true. It's true. Yeah. And I think continuing to find your support network, whatever that is. I mean, for some people it is an online support network. For some people it's Jack's mom in Austin. For some people it's a church group. But really identifying at least one strong support group.
I totally agree. Yeah, just having someone you can touch base with for sure. I think is really good. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Anything else you want to add?
I guess maybe I've gotten a few questions lately about back to school. And I talked a little bit about the back to school kind of anxiety that sometimes I see our young people facing. As a high school teacher for 6 years, I actually saw in those 6 years a huge escalation in the number of students that identified as anxious or depressed. And maybe part of it is that they feel more comfortable. Maybe they have more access to resources that help them name what it is that they're feeling. But I also think there potentially has been an increase in our number of young people that feel anxiety and depression and not feel it. I mean, experience it. It's very real. And so I talk a lot about strategies that they can use. So I mentioned one, like going through the day and helping them identify the times and spaces where they can feel safe, where they can feel secure in their day, whether it be a certain teacher or a certain space on their campus, and helping them to continue to put their energy into those places that do feel safe and do bring them some peace, so that they can then have the resiliency to get through the other parts that are not as as manageable for them. I also think that at this time of year, when there's just so much energetic shifting. So even if we love the excitement of back to school and it's like a new start, kind of like the new year, and we set new intentions, it's a real energy shift. And for parents, there might be a sense of relief of like, oh, okay, I have some of my time back. My kids are back at school. But we can sometimes get lost in the energy of the transition. So making sure that we're intentional about setting up quality time with our kids. So actually saying every Tuesday we're all having dinner together. Every, Friday is movie night. Sorry. Once I start coughing, it's like it's over.
I know, and then you can only
can't even
stop.
So yeah, I think the commitment on everybody's part, and those activities should be decided on by the family together, right? Not just the parents that say, "Hey, this is where you need to show up to this," but deciding together 1 or 2 times a week where there is quality family time. It's really important because before we know it, there's extracurricular schedules going on, crazy homework schedules going on, work is crazy for parents, whatever happens, life happens. So if we start with those commitments now here in September, then we'll make sure that we secure that quality time with our family that really helps us feel connected and helps us maintain our communication.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's see. And then I guess the last thing that I would share is going along with helping your child find the safe spaces and places that they, feel good in their daily life at school. Help them name the people and the supports. So I know that I recently was talking to a 17-year-old. She was having a really rough day at school, and she said that she didn't know what to do, right? She literally was like, who do I talk to? So if before that situation happens, if we can have a conversation with our young person, our teen or tween, and help them know who they can go to, like, where is the counselor on your campus? Have you met them? Let's go meet them now. Let's go to the back to school night and meet the counselor. So setting all this stuff up as early as possible so that when the bad day happens or that sort of paralysis happens, the idea might come from somewhere.
Okay, yeah. So, that is really good to know.
Yeah, so just a lot of that kind of like walking through it's almost like what do you call it? Like role playing, but not getting super cheesy, but just really talking through it. So that there's almost that muscle memory or that mental memory that, hey, I'm going to come back to this when I need it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I have someone, and just knowing too, I think when they do get to that point that there is maybe someone that they can go to instead of, you're right, getting to that point being like, I have no one.
Nobody.
Yeah. So that is a really good point to have. I think we are probably going to wrap it up around here. This was all great. This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I love what you're doing with Jack's mom in Austin. And I love the guests that you've had. And it's just fun to, interact with your audience. And thank you everyone who sent your questions.
Yes, thank you very much. I was kind of worried that we weren't going to get any. I mean, we would have worked through it. I've had some where nobody sends a question, but these are some really good questions.
And they're deep. It's hard to go there sometimes. So I appreciate you all, being vulnerable and asking the questions.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And these are, questions I'm probably going to put in a folder for later. And be like, what did we talk about? What did we say?
Yes.
So thank you so much. And I am going to keep having these for as long as I can. I really do think that this is stuff that I want to know about. This is stuff that I feel is so important to share. So if you guys definitely like it, let me know, and I'll keep trying my best to get different, people that can offer us different resources for different topics. In the future, I am going to have a few other speakers that will help address LGBTQ teens and younger children, and answering their questions, answering what, our children might come up with or might ask. Like, Jack asked me, it was a few weeks ago already, why someone on TV looked like a man but spoke like a woman, which I thought that was interesting for him to be able to pick that out. And, it puts us in a spot where we're like, well, how do I answer that? And how do I answer that openly and in a way that's, not biased and not trying to, sway him into thinking a certain way about a certain person. Because for the most part, I think all of us want our children to be open-minded and loving and compassionate. So I will have someone coming on and talking to us about that, and a few other guests. Next week, I'm going to have Naya, the lactation consultant. She's about to be one, Lactivist and Louboutin. I always mess that up. I think I said that right though. But she's going to be here with, I know it's a cool focuses a lot on postpartum mental health, which is
awesome.
So I know I'm really intrigued about what we're going to talk about, the three of us, because I think that both of those combined is a really interesting subject. And then I'll have a few other, hopefully I'll have another life coach that'll, we did talk about teens, but this one talks about younger children and different developmental milestones, which is a really big interest for me. So I'm just going to keep having, different guests until you guys get bored of it or tired of it. But until then,
awesome.
I'm going to keep having them. And you guys have until midnight also to enter the Fairy Tale Threads consignment event. You get 2 tickets. I'm having a little giveaway if you guys want to enter that. And I think that's pretty much it, other than, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. This is so big and so important. But I am still going to have another diaper drive to support the Austin Diaper Bank at Hat Creek next Thursday. I'm going to post that event later today. And it's going to be from 4 until 7. Imagine that Art Studios is going to come out and have a little craft for the kiddos. But bring in your diapers, your feminine products, your wipes, and all of that's going to go to help the displaced families and the survivors of Hurricane Harvey, which by then it might be Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, I know. It's a rough few weeks.
Exactly. So
it's going to be a long
it's going to be long
term.
for a lot of people. So definitely come by if you guys are in the area. This is again next Thursday. And for every donation you give, Hat Creek is going to be giving you a $5 gift card. And they're also going to match monetary donations. So if you give $20, you get $20 in gift cards, which I think is extremely generous of them.
Awesome.
Yes, it's amazing. So other than that, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy it.
And can I just tell, I'll tell people where to find me?
Oh,
more.
Yes, that's so important. Yes.
Good. Yeah, I didn't say that at the beginning, but so I'm on Facebook as Courtney Harris Coaching. And I also have a private Facebook group for parents, and it's called Parenting and Growing Time and Space to Be Real. So you can find me, and maybe I'll post those in a link under this video. So you can join my community, be in touch, like my page, and send me any more questions that you have. And I'm also happy for you guys to, if you have other resources to share about things that we talked about, strategies that you have, share those below, and let's keep the dialogue happening.
Yes, it makes it super interesting. And I'll add all this stuff to the blog post. I forget to mention that, but this will all be on a blog post so that you guys can go and find her and find all of these resources. And I am a part of that group, even though I don't have a team, but I love it. I love checking it out every day. So It's a really good group to be a part of. But that's it. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you all. Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.